And welcome back. As we go ahead and continue our programming journey, let's go ahead and discuss the difference between mutable and immutable classes. So let's start off by looking at an example of comparing methods. If we look at these two methods, we have public string get name, return name, and public date get birth date, return new date born. You notice that the method get birth date does not simply return the reference in the instance variable born, but instead uses the copy constructor to return a reference to a copy of the birth date object. So why do we do this? Why do we do this in our code? Well, if we return a reference in the instance variable born, then we could place this reference in a variable type date. And that variable could serve as another name for the private instance variable born, which would allow us technically to violate the privacy of an instance variable born by changing it in a immutator method of the class date. It's a lot to digest. So we ask, well, why not do something similar in the method getName? Well, let's look at getName and ask, why doesn't it require that same approach? Well, the reason for this is the method getName simply returns a reference in the private instance variable name. So if we would do the following of the program, then the variable name alias will be another name for the string object of the private instance variable name. So person citizen equals new person Joe citizen, new date January 1st, 1900, new date January 1st, 1990, string name alias equals citizen.getName. It looks as though we could use a mutator method here from the class string to change the name reference by name alias, and so again violating that privacy instance variable name. So then we ask ourselves, well, do we need to rewrite the method getName to use the copy constructor for the class string? Well, the answer is no. We cannot use a mutator method with name alias because the class string, if you actually look at the documentation, doesn't have any mutator methods. The class string contains no methods that allow you to change any of the data in a string object. Now, at first it may seem as though, yes, you can change the data in an object of the class string, because we say, well, what about our string processing we've done, like string greeting goes hello, greeting goes a greeting plus friend, so it would say hello friend. You're like, we're changing the data, right? And you say, well, didn't we just change it from hello to hello friend? Well, the answer is no, and let's look at why. So the expression greeting plus friend does not actually change the object hello. Instead, it creates a new object, so the assignment statement greeting equals greeting plus friend replaces the reference to hello with a reference to the different string object hello friend. Therefore, our object, hello is unchanged. And if you want to see if this is true, consider the following code. String greeting equals hello, string hello variable equals greeting. Greeting is equal to greeting plus friend. And if we do a system out of println hello variable, we're simply going to get the output hello. If the object hello itself had been changed, well, the output would have been hello friend. And this gets us to our point of immutable. A class that contains no methods other than constructors that can change any of the data in the class object is known as an immutable class. And the objects of that class are called immutable objects. Case in point, the string class is an immutable class. We can't go in and start modifying these values. Therefore, it's perfectly safe to return a reference to an immutable object because the object cannot be changed in any undesirable way. In fact, it can't be changed in any way whatsoever. By comparison, we have mutable objects. A class that contains public mutator methods, so remember these are set methods, and other methods such as input methods that can change the data in an object of the class is known as a mutable class. And objects of the class are called mutable objects. The class date that we've looked at, of course, is an example of a mutable class, and many, perhaps most of the classes that you actually define will be mutable classes. Now, you should never write a method that returns a mutable object, but instead use a copy constructor or some other means to return a reference to a completely independent copy of that mutable object. Now, the last little note with that is that, and we're going to talk about this much later on, but when you make that independent copy, there's two variations. You can have a shallow copy or a deep copy. But again, we'll look at that at a later point. But for now, know that most of the classes you're going to create will be mutable. Whereas like the classes that you can't go in and change certain values, such as string, a lot of your classes that might, for example, be in the Java library, are going to be immutable.